This is the second module about the change of registration category process for teachers with provisional registration who want to change their category to full registration. The recommended reading includes looking at the video called Module 1, the applicant information pack on the TRB website, the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers, and housed on the AITSL website, the induction information and the AITSL illustrations of practice. This module will help you understand what's required to complete the change of category process in Tasmania. Please read the links to the recommended reading and have a look at Module 1. You really need to have the applicant information pack and a copy of the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers. You'll use your own documentation drawn from your everyday teaching practice to provide evidence to allow you to complete this process. Remember, you need to provide evidence for each standard and all the focus areas within the standards. So think about an activity that you have undertaken recently, which you've then taken into your classroom and seen an impact on your students' learning. Why was this example significant? What did you learn? As a result of this, what have you been able to take into your classroom and what impact has it had for your students? How do you know this? Which standards and focus areas do you think this provides some evidence for? The answers to these questions will provide you with a framework for your annotation around your professional learning journal. Look at the link for evidence example 1. In talking about explicit evidence, the panel reviewing your evidence will need to see explicit examples of you demonstrating each of the standards and the focus areas. This will come from your everyday work. A unit of work that you've taught recently will typically provide evidence across multiple standards and focus areas. You don't need to consider a separate piece of evidence for each standard or each focus area. Some focus areas may present some challenges in terms of finding explicit evidence. You'll need to discuss this with your colleague teacher. However, consider the ICT requirements. Your school policy may in fact provide you with some good evidence for what exists in terms of the understandings that are required, but it may not provide you with examples of how the policy is enacted in your classroom and how you demonstrate safe, ethical and responsible use of ICT in your classroom. That's the conversation to have so that you can find what it is that you do that shows you understand how the standards will look in your teaching practice. Occasionally, it may be appropriate for a panel to consider making an on-balance judgment where explicit evidence is not available for perhaps one focus area. But there are 37 focus areas, and the on-balance judgment will be restricted to 1 or 2. This is an unusual situation. In considering your classroom observations, it's a good idea to analyse your lesson before you start. Have a conversation with your colleague teacher about what it is that you expect to demonstrate in this time. What do you think it will be in terms of the standards that will be seen? Is this lesson related to either of the other 2 types of evidence? Is it, for example, likely to include a demonstration of some of your professional learning? That's a good way to use efficiency in your choice of evidence. Consider the context of the lesson. Is it part of a larger unit? What documentation will you include in your portfolio around this lesson planning? The comments that your colleague teacher will provide you need to be standards referenced and provided in feedback to you. Your annotation needs to account for that feedback. Consider how you can reduce the number of documents by selecting items that cover a very broad range of evidence. A unit of work will almost always cover a wide range of standards and many focus areas. It may also illustrate evidence from your professional learning, and it may provide lesson observations for your colleague teacher to document for you. Have a look at the link to Evidence Example 2.